Hello everybody, Thy Lord Root here, and welcome to this first episode of Let's Play Prison Architect. So this game is, as best as I can understand it, a cross between a building simulator like SimCity for instance, and really I'm not sure what game has the prison aspect to it, but it is one of those management sims where in this case, what you're trying to do is you're trying to more or less build a prison and manage it. So, I got this off of the Humble Bundle. If y'all are not familiar with that, it's a pretty good deal. I believe the idea behind it is that, many of these indie developers and some bigger developers as well, like, the developers of Saints Row, for instance, will basically let you pay what you want for the software and donate a significant portion of it, which you can set to charity. And so I ended up getting this on a weekend sale for about $20 with Darwinia, and I wonder if there's anything else I got with it. It was largely Darwinia that came with it, so anyway, this game has always looked interesting since I found out about it. I just never got around to actually playing it. And I think we're going to do that now, so we're going to go ahead and do the introduction here. It looks like the trailer of a movie, almost. Prison, where good folks go to die, and bad folks run rampant. Whether you're Obex, the overweight dude, or a janitor cleaning the showers, there is no rest for the wicked in this prison. Behold, as we are constantly installing new hardware into unpowered cells, prisoners in this prison are delivered like commodities on 18-wheelers and hauled into a delivery section where they are managed by a somewhat unenthused warden. This is Prison Architect. I should work for the movies. So yeah, anyway, this is the tutorial for the game, of course. And you can see this is largely, it looks like SVG. Looks like mostly vector graphics. And so we've got this guy who has basically given us some tasks. I think this is the only scenario within the game, but I haven't really messed around with it too much, so I don't know. And so, what are we building here? An execution chamber. We're gonna fry this dude. So I guess this is just to teach you a little bit about building. And in a sense, this is a lot like a more maudlin version of The Sims, it seems. To where, you do get to build your own facilities. In this case, it's a execution facility, or an execution facility right now. So, of course, we have to put down a foundation for our building. And we also have to put down a jail door. Of course, this guy is going to harass us in the middle of that. So you can see we've got all of these workers in their, fluorescent jumpsuits beginning work on this immediately. And they will pretty much get started as soon as possible. By the way, one annoying thing that I did notice about this game when I first started it up was basically it kicks you into this introduction with no way to skip it. And it's kind of annoying if, you intend to record this, I guess, as a virgin player, because I really didn't want to go through the tutorial at first. I just wanted to, get my sound settings right so I didn't blow your eardrums out. And hopefully, y'all can hear everything just fine, but it does kind of force you into the tutorial, and the fact that you can't skip it does kind of suck. So, if the developer is watching this, which I seriously doubt he is, that would be a nice feature to put in. It would be nice to skip past the intro. I mean, to be fair, this is an alpha game, but it does look fairly complete, so it would be nice. So now we've got ourselves a little bit of a frame of a building. So we can use either WASD or we can use the arrow keys to move around. And there is the ability to zoom out as well. Um, of course, I don't have a mouse wheel on this laptop. It's an IBM laptop, so it's got one of those weird middle click things that you can use to simulate clicking the scroll wheel, but it's a little bit more difficult to do, scrolling on this, which is a little bit bothersome. But fortunately, they do account for that. They do give you Q and E to do your zoom, so that's pretty cool. Um, so now we get to build a dedicated cell, it looks like, for this dude, and an execution room as well. So we've got these partitions going. One thing that it took me a little bit to figure out, maybe I've just been playing too much KSP, like one of the first things I looked for was the time warp, which is pretty much essential to a simulation game. And here is your African swallow speed here. They'll build it just a little bit faster if you hit on this. I don't think that you make them go faster than a double speed, but that should be good enough, and we should be getting a call from the CEO about now. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and we are going to put in another large gel door here, and we'll hit R to rotate this thing. And of course, we'll time warp. So these guys are going to bring the gel doors in and put them in. Incidentally, at the place I work at, there was there's still at the university center to where they took about a month and a half or so to put on a pair of or two sets of sliding automatic doors. So I don't know if it's as simple as just screwing the door in, but we'll take it. So here we can designate our various rooms. We definitely want a cell here that we can, store a prisoner in. And then, actually, I wonder. Well, maybe we couldn't make that small room an execution room. Although I believe the execution chair will fit. So, let's see, we need, of course, an electric chair in the execution room. I guess they don't believe in lethal injection. And we need a bed and a thingy, a toilet. Because when you're about to go on death row, you don't want these prisoners to void their bowels in the middle of execution. So I could be mean and make it to where the toilet is unreachable, but I mean, this is this dude's last day on Earth. I think I will give him a decent toilet that he could actually use. And like I said, we don't want him voiding his bowels in the middle of execution, so we'll just let them put that sort of thing in. And it looks like they're putting in the IKEA execution chair, and that looks like it comes in that tiny little box. So now they have to bring a toilet, and by the way, this is all stuff that they're getting from down here. So apparently they knew ahead of time that they were going to, execute this prisoner, and they ordered an execution chair in advance. And so I guess they want us to, we could just leave this bland, I guess, if we were mean. But, we'll do this for, for completion's sake. I mean, the prisoner, despite having done something to warrant execution, does deserve a facility with mosaic tiles and wooden floorboards, so we'll just go ahead and put that in. And of course, we want him to feel at home coming up here because it's not like he's about to die. Oh, what is that dude doing to that priest? Or what is he about to do? And so I guess, we will go ahead and do our thingy here. And we'll zoom out, of course. We'll make this place a little bit more bearable for the prisoner. And, we'll put down, I guess we'll put down mosaic tile in here. And maybe white marble in the execution room. Just to make it look cool. And then, what else did they want? They wanted a, I think a window. I'll just put that right behind the toilet so that people can peer in and watch him do his business. And what was it? They wanted a bookshelf as well. So, oh yeah, and I guess they wanted pavers as well so that we could connect this thing to the to our facility here, our main facility. So we'll just take our objects and we will put in some lighting so this guy doesn't accidentally break his neck before, we end up executing him. And let's see. Oh, we did build a path. I guess I don't understand why that path is not. I guess we need to go a little bit farther down. I guess, we need to take these pavers and build a complete path here. That's kind of weird. I don't quite understand. Oh, you know what? It may have done that because it looks like I used mosaic tile for that. I need to replace that with paving stone. I mean, it's not absolutely necessary, I guess, but I mean, the way I see it, we do want them to get that mission done. So let's just go ahead. We'll transfer the prisoner now, and we'll take him. For somebody who's about to be executed, this guy is actually fairly compliant. Of course, we have the police chief that always has to butt in with his opinion. I have a feeling we're going to hear about this whether we're interested or not, so let's go ahead and get ready for that. We got this whole black and white thing going on, I guess for drama. Whoa, he lives in a prison? Well, that's a little bit bizarre. Oh, this is no good. No, don't do it! You have so much to live for, Edward. Wait, is he pointing the gun at himself or at them? Because, his avatar on screen, um, shows him, pointing the gun towards his skull, but looks like he's pointing it towards his wife and, her lover or whatever. I'm guessing that's his wife. Well, actually, yeah, I mean, I knew that was his wife because I played through this once before. But yeah, it's your typical, a double homicide scenario. I mean, come to think of it, this game, at least the introduction, is pretty graphic. I wasn't expecting that at first, I mean, I had seen it, but I mean, look at that. Like, you've got your gore and your nudity and, your answering machine next to the bed, which, in any rate, should be a crime. And, yeah, I mean, he lives in a prison. So, I mean, I guess I should have seen that coming. Wonder if it was that much of an adjustment for him. I mean, he went from living into a prison, or living in a prison, to living in a smaller prison. So, I mean, I don't know if it's really that big of a deal for him. I don't know if it was that big of a transition. And so I guess one of the things that we'll see is we'll get to see if this thing, actually has legible text in the recording. I mean, it looks as though this game is designed, at least in part, for Let's Play just because of the size of the text. I mean, it's definitely a lot bigger than I would have expected. And so, yeah, there's this deal going on now with the whole morality of what he did, I guess every game needs that, especially when involving a prison. But, if you think about it, he is at least getting a bit of a step up from his former cell, he is getting this nice cell with mosaic tile floor and a bookshelf and a window right behind the toilets so he can watch the birds. I imagine if I were on death row, like, I would actually be a little bit irritated. Like, if somebody was like, well, it's a nicer cell, but we're in the opposite position, so, I think we're doing pretty good for him. And so we've got this, whole discussion about the ethics of the death penalty and everything, and fortunately it seems like this, scene only happens once. You can restart it whenever you want to, but, it's not required. So, what's needed for the electric chair? Well, we need electricity, right? I mean, you can't flip the switch on the electric chair and have it do anything if you don't have electricity. And so now we've got this thing right here to where we have, our mains here, and we want to extend that down to the prison, it looks like. And so I'm a little bit bewildered as to how, with no electricity, we have lights in the cells, but um, that's okay. I mean, we'll hook up the mains, um, and that's not going to be a problem. However, this is because I guess, well, it looks like they can imprison people in cells without power, but maybe, my guess is maybe an organization like OSHA will come by, and if your prisoners don't have power, maybe, OSHA will decommission your prison, and in so doing, like you lose the game or something. I don't know. So we'll go into this utilities mode. We get this nice underground view, and we'll just lay out our mains power here. It looks like cells implicitly get powered, and we're gonna go down here and also set up our mains connection to the electric chair, which is important, right? We definitely want electricity going to our electric chair when we flip the switch. Otherwise, we'll needlessly torture our prisoner. So we'll just put this on time warp, and they're going to start putting in the mains power. It looks like, I mean, one of the things I like so far about this game is the fact that, like, instead of, like, just bringing the raw parts or whatever, like, they'll bring in the case of the power lines, it looks like they'll bring in entire spools of the cables or whatever. Now, let's see. Looks like we're either waiting on these guys to hook it up, or we've already completed it. I guess they did that in parallel. So, we're just going to. It looks like he's just going to test this before we fire Executioner, because I guess we don't want to scare the willies out of him. It looks like we have had a blackout. So, what do we do here? Well, looks like we need to, add our capacitors back in, or turn them back on, flip the entire thing on, and then add more capacitors, so that, we have more power. So, I mean, y'all are probably, those of y'all that don't know much about electronics, y'all are probably wondering what capacitors are. Some of us kind of sort of have an idea. I mean, the capacitors are basically like, well, they're not always those round cans on your electronics, but those are capacitors themselves. And basically, they store charge, right? So they're a good thing to have, and, in a situation where you're, dealing with power or whatnot, because the idea is that if your power generator or whatever um, has a dip in power, and that's very likely to happen actually, because I mean, you don't get perfect transmission with something like that. And so, let's see, are we switched on? Oh, we have to be in utilities mode. You don't, get, you know, perfect transmission across the line because of things like electrical noise. So, like, one of the things that you can do, for instance, is you can put a capacitor in your circuit to basically store up charge and help smooth out the line when necessary. In fact, that's used in a lot of AC to DC designs to basically you have this thing called a half rectifier that what it ends up doing is it ends up generating like during the ACs, like during the half of the period where the wave is below, you know, is negative voltage, then it'll draw from the power in the positive phase to to essentially, you know, smooth out the line, and you can use a full rectifier in a similar configuration to get a full square wave. Well, that's weird. It's these ghastly plates. Anyway, we'll switch it on, this electric chair, and we'll switch it off. So there's your, you know, tangent about something completely unrelated to the game for the day. And so, let's see. I guess now we get to watch the execution. And I guess we get more backstory, which is kind of interesting. I mean, as far as I'm aware, there is no actual story in the game. Um, I mean, it'd be like, you know, there being a story in The Sims. Which, I mean, yeah, there kind of are. Like, you know, stories of some kind in The Sims, but they're completely optional, and it's not really a story as such. It's that your characters, you know, have a backstory, and you're just trying to get out of this, you know, get them out of this weird situation. Or maybe like if you're, man, what's that family in The Sims that's with like Bella or whatever, the, you know, the ones that are like immensely rich, and the Goth family, you know. But I mean, it's like, you know, this is the only. Oh God, he's doing it again. I mean, the way I read this storyline, and I think it's just maybe because of it must be because of the fact that this is a game and not, you know, a religious thing. Big surprise there. You know, this kind of reminds me of the whole, you know, anime take on the priest, to where, you know, the priest is this, you know, saintly figure that is immensely wise and accepts mass murderers into his church and tells them to turn themselves in. Which, I don't know, like, I guess some priest may do that, but, I mean, it does spack me a bit as a bit of a contrived sort of deal. And that's okay, because it's a video game. I mean, nobody takes this seriously. I mean, if I have a feeling that there were very few people who would get their, you know, theology from Prison Architect. But it is sort of, you know, that cheesy dialogue with the priest or whatever that you always seem to find in anime anytime there's a priest. unless it's Full Metal Alchemist, and then the priest, of course, is you know, a greedy, self-absorbed, corrupt, figurehead. It was one of the two, right? It never fails in video games. But yeah, I guess they will execute him now. It is time, Edward. You have done the right thing, even though this world will not forgive you for it. You will be with God soon, and He will have the final judgment on you. And then there will be cake. I mean, incidentally, like, I think JRPGs are a little bit worse about this sort of thing. Well, really, with like the cheesy dialogue in general. I mean, I ended up being, more of a Ultima sort of player growing up, and I didn't really get exposed to Final Fantasy until the probably until maybe I was 14, 15, maybe 16. I mean, it's never really my bag, and I mean, especially on the Super Nintendo, like there's some good RPGs, like Chrono Trigger, for instance, is an awesome RPG. But on the other hand, like there's some immensely terrible ones. I'll have to go through my cartridge collection and try to find it. I got this thing for like $5 at a game exchange or something, but um the game is one of the worst RPGs I've ever played. I mean, first of all, it's like, it's one of those action RPGs, which is just fine by me, but there's it's just like, if you do that, if you're trying to make a weird Zelda sort of clone, then you actually probably want to make the game maybe not easy to play, but to where the interface doesn't suck. And this one, like, your character moved insanely slow, and he had a really short sword that was really difficult to attack with. I mean, I guess we're about to miss what he's going to say. Was he going to say anything? Oh, his last word is Susan. I'm so sorry that I caught you cheating on me. So anyway, like, it got to the point to where, like, I maybe played through the quest, or through the, maybe up to the third quest, and there's this point in the game where, you're supposed to find this plant, and they're like, have you heard of this mythical plant called mint? And I mean, it was one of the worst RPGs I think I've ever played on that particular, console. I mean, I don't know if it was a translation thing or not, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell, and I somehow doubt that the storyline would have been that engaging in its, original language anyway. At any rate, this has been Thylord Roots, and we are going to say goodbye for now, but we'll be back shortly for another episode.